This has kind of set us back, requiring substantial demolition of the house. So we originally were planning on a repair. Now we are essentially rebuilding 20 to 30% of the home. This obviously has created a different timeline, requiring engineering drawings and delay. So as the property sits now, I believe we are as compliant with city codes as any active construction site. But that was not the order. The order was to receive all final inspections and permits. So in a way, we are compliant. However, on the other hand, we're not. Right. So that's where we sit now as we go forward. Now, looking at daily fines of $250, it may become a question of, is it worth even rebuilding to the administrative costs, not necessarily the building costs, because they could easily outweigh the building costs.
Certainly.
So,
and the fines at $250 a day could consume the entire value of the property.
Correct. And when this order was created, it was created with the understanding that it would be a repair. And I think we're in a much different place now with the type of work that is required to bring this building up to code.
Okay, I understand where you are. And it makes perfect sense to me what you're saying. Unfortunately, this is not the hearing
Correct.
For that. Let me just say this. I don't want to fine homeowners, okay? Commercial buildings where the public safety is at risk is my primary interest. But there's a mathematical formula as to the fine, okay? So 4 days times 250 equals $1,000. If at some point you decide to demolish this, I would be willing to go back through this with you and determine what is that, I don't want to say silly, but there'd be no justification for fining you for painting a wall that has been torn down. I think what you need to do is you need to make a final decision as to what you want to do here. Then come back and we'll talk about money.
Our decision is to rebuild.
To rebuild, not to demolish.
Now, I have a representative of the contractor, Tim, here, who I'm going to talk to a little bit more about timeline, because the math is what you're talking about will be the deciding factor on how fast it's rebuilt, which catches us first, the fines or the build, ultimately.
Okay. How to put it nicely. You've been in enough courtrooms to know that the negotiation is with the opposing party, not with the trier of fact. The opposing party in this case, the city of Daytona Beach Shores, has in previous cases negotiated a resolution that I didn't participate in, but I did approve. Is that enough of a hint?
Yes, understood.
I would strongly go that way.
Understood.
I can't make a deal with you, but the city certainly can.
Understood.
Okay? So what else would you like to talk about?
So considering the violations, if we cannot consider this property independently as a construction site and treat it as any other construction site as to violations, then I think that's the only thing I could offer as far as the viewpoint.
Okay. I can treat it as a construction site at the second compliance hearing. And I do have the power to forgive the fines if you're persuasive. But I don't have the ability right now to say, yeah, I think you're done, good job. Okay? That's a negotiation with the city.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I can't, without stepping over a line, I can't give you any more hints than that.
Appreciate it.
Okay? Anything else you'd like to tell me?
That's all.
I don't think presenting your contractor is going to change anything now. It may at the second.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Herstein, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Miller, before you go, please. A couple of things. So are you familiar with the city's process regarding today being a first compliance hearing and then a second compliance hearing? Do you understand what that second compliance hearing is an opportunity to do?
Yes. My understanding is once we're in full compliance with all of the orders, meaning final approval inspections, then we come back for another hearing to discuss how much of the fine will be assessed to the property that is built.
How much may be reduced or rescinded based on your arguments about reasons that that compliance took longer than the time that you were originally given at that initial hearing.
Understood.
And that will be a decision that our special magistrate makes. And it is not a city negotiation. I did just want to clarify. Did you recall our conversation yesterday regarding, I specifically said, once it's been before the magistrate for an initial hearing, it is now, it's the magistrate's purview to weigh in on the liens unless and until it gets all the way to the city commission once the magistrate has made his ruling at the end of that second compliance hearing. It's out of my hands as far as a negotiation. I did just want to clear that up. The city commission still has one more look at it if you choose to apply to do that, but it is not a negotiation with the city.
Understood.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Do you have any questions about the second compliance hearing? Although that's not what I'm standing here to do. If you do, please contact the city, me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one other question. Mr. Miller, are you the person that submitted these pages?
Yes.
Okay. I will consider them at the second hearing. If you have anything else you're going to submit, could you put a case number or your name or
Yes.
something on them
Yes.
so that I know where they belong? Okay.
Yes,
All right. Anything else?
that is all.
Okay. I'm going to find you not in compliance. I'm going to order an order number 11, $250 a day until it is brought into compliance. You owe $149.09 from the first hearing. It was ordered to be paid within 30 days. And you have roughly, let me see where the affidavit is here. $85.53 from this hearing. Could you please pay those within 30 days?
Yes.
Okay. See you at the second one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your time. All right, Chair, was that clear? Okay. On to 4C. Property owner Pirates Cove Condominium Association, SCDEF 2023-47. Is there anyone here on this case? Okay. Ladies, would you mind coming up to the front? And your name is?
Sari Lamont. I'm the condominium president, but I'm new to being president, so on your papers I am secretary still.
Okay, I'll take any officer.
Yes.
Okay, Sergeant at Arms is fine with me.
Yes, great.
And you are?
I am Alicia Delegati. I'm the CAM manager for the property.
Okay. All right, well, I think you've seen how this works. If you wouldn't mind having a seat so that you can see and hear everything, and we'll proceed. Ms. Herstein?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents included in this PowerPoint file, whether presented during the hearing or not by the city for this case, be accepted as evidence, most of which have been provided to the special magistrate, all but the pictures that I'm about to show you, and all of which have been provided to the respondent or their rep.
Okay, did you receive a packet?
We did.
And do you have a legal reason why it should not be accepted into evidence? Or legal objection, rather?
No.
Okay, in which case it'll be accepted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, again, this is a first compliance hearing for a case involving 8 violations caused during the late hurricanes Ian and Nicole, late 22 hurricanes Ian and Nicole, with no forward movement under an emergency FDEP permit which was obtained to fix the damage A notice of violation was issued in November of 2023. At the initial hearing in January 2024, the property reps were given 12 months, or until January 20th, 2025, to correct violations A, B, and H pertaining to the area along the north property line where a 70-foot retaining wall had been planned. The other 5 violations related to the seawall and the structures above the pool deck, which had been badly damaged, were ordered to be corrected by April 30th of this year. I re-inspected on January 23rd of this year and found that violations A, D, and H had not been corrected. An affidavit of compliance was generated and is in this packet. A notice of first compliance hearing was generated, sent by certified mail. Good service was achieved by hand delivery to the site manager, Alicia. And I would like to show you pictures along with each of the 3 violations, and then I have a recommendation.
Okay, please. I have a question, and maybe that'll help you. I noticed in the timeline, January 23rd, 2024, the contractor planned work and everything. Then July 31st, you got a call from the project manager. What happened between January and July? 7 months of what?
The call that I got in July, if I am remembering correctly, was for a letter of no contravene, which is basically one of the last things that a lot of contractors or engineers do before submitting their packet to FDEP for approval for that initial permit. Sometimes they submit their packet and then get told they need to provide more information, and sometimes that's the letter of no contravene is an example of that. And that basically says the city doesn't have any outward zoning violation, or don't see any zoning issues with what they're planning to do.
But do you have any idea why it was 7 months between
Well, no, I would be
contact
guessing.
with the contractor?
I would be guessing. There is somebody here who may be able to answer that because Mr. Haskell was initially in contact with me about it. So he may be able to enlighten you.
Okay, so as far as you know, this is not a city delay that took 7 months?
Oh, absolutely not, Your Honor. In fact, letters of no contravene need to be, our commitment is to turn them around within 48 hours.
Okay, that was the big question I had when I read through this is 7 months, wow, okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, please. If it helps your understanding, it's going to help everybody else's understanding too. These are just some older pictures to give you a sense for what the property looked like and what the storm did. The top picture was an old 2007 picture, but the best one I had to compare with the bottom, and I've kind of tried to match them up with the pink dots and the green triangles. You can see that they had an overhang that you could park underneath. They had a pool deck area out above that, and there were some other structures as well that were commercial spaces. If you look at the bottom picture, that's well after the storm, but still shows you a good example of the damage. So a lot of the parking structure was completely destroyed and part of that wall. So a lot of issues to fix. Here's another view of the same, slightly different on the bottom, showing you a little bit more of the damage that resulted from the hurricane. Again, the upper left is a 2007 picture, and then the lower right was mid last year. I will say you'll see a lot of debris in the mid last year picture, but when I go down to talk about what's happening at the property now, they have gone in and pulled away much, if not all, of the loose debris so that it doesn't wash back out into the ocean, which is great, and have provided some fill dirt just to try to stabilize things. So violations A, D, and H, these are the 3 violations that were required to be compliant as of January 20th, and they're all related to each other. They all pertain to that retaining wall that needed to be restored along the north property line that runs all the way to meet the seawall.
Mm-hmm.
I put the orange line and the red line to show you those are the exact same corner, so you can see some of the difference between earlier and now. They did go through and demo some of that structure. Those were commercial spaces. Again, we're talking about violations A, D, and H. Those are all we're talking about today, really, from the city's perspective, because those were the ones that were required to be compliant. You can see, again, that they have removed some debris, they have removed the structures, but they still don't have in place that north, it was planned to be a 70-foot north retaining wall. It has not been established. Another view of the same issue. Again, there's a little piece of the old north retaining wall and not much else along that whole side. Our request today is that you issue an order number 11, an order imposing fine and lien, and we request reimbursement of $92.43 in administrative fees for today's meeting. And you can see that affidavit on page 4C-26. Previous fees for this case have been paid.
Okay, great. Do either of you have any questions for Ms. Herstein? Do you have any further witnesses?
I do not, Your Honor.
All right. Would either of you like to say anything on behalf of the building?
There is no excuse, I mean.
Okay, then you got to come up here.
Oh, okay, no, you better do it. Yes, Tim's gonna do it.
May I, Your Honor?
Sure.
Hi, good morning. I'm Tim Hassler, project manager with the general contractor Stephen Van Arnhem, LLC.
Okay.
And if I-
Would you mind raising your right hand?
Yeah.
Please, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I do.
You're the project manager on both projects?
Yes.
Well, that was convenient.
We have ongoing code enforcement hearings, represent homeowners and property owners in Daytona, the county, and other municipalities as well.
Okay. And what would you like to say about this project?
Everything Ms. Herstein has said is accurate. A couple of things, if I could vote, please. Finally, after 7 months of waiting for the DEP to issue their final seawall permit, which also includes the permit to the installation of a new ADA compliant ramp off the pool deck, as well as a permit to make repairs to the existing concrete seawall. Again, it took nearly 8 months for us to get the permit from the FDEP.
Why so long?
Okay, so we submitted, may I go back a little bit further? I'll try to
Sure.
be brief and get right to the point. If I'm rambling, please.
Well, go ahead, it's your
stop.
presentation.
There's a lot of information. And I emailed this to Gwen and to the city this morning. This is the Florida DEP permit issued on February 6th of this year. And it notes that application for a permit was made in September 24th of 2022. At that time, the DEP issued an emergency permit to boards prior to the ones that are in place now. That was post Ian and Nicole. There was an emergency final order issued on that permit. And at that time, they had another engineer and another contractor that proposed putting a seawall in place of their existing seawall, north to south, with a minor return coming up the Dunlawton Beach approach.
Okay.
Okay, that sat there, no work was done with that prior board. At least for 6 months, because the first DEP emergency permit expired. Getting to the point in January of last year, prior boards, which had nothing to do with the current board, retained our services, Stephen Van Arnhem General Contracting, and our engineering firm out of Altamont Springs, to review the wall, the situation, and what we can do. Our conclusions were, ours being the GC, general contractor, and the engineer of record, was that a wall in front of the existing wall, by the way, costing $670,000, was not needed because of the state of the seawall is such, the existing seawall can handle, it's a very, it's a thick, substantial seawall. And it was one glaring error we saw on the plan, that the old plan was that there was no return coming up the Dunlawton Beach approach, where Glenn was showing you the bulk of the damage had occurred in 2022 with Ian and Nicole.
Right.
So, fast forwarding, we were retained in January of last year to do a much more scaled down version of what's 70 feet coming up the ramp and to close the gap against the building, which now, once installed, will keep the building from being prone from that northeastern potential structural damage. Well, that being said, we began permitting soon after. I don't have that exact date, sir. We attempted, okay, in the meantime, Milton had hit, Hurricane Milton. If I'm out of time order, please forgive me, but at that time, we had attempted to help them by applying for a second emergency permit from the DEP. Because A, the requirements for that permit are much less than the requirements for a regular DEP permit for a seawall and dune walkover. They denied us the emergency, never explained, just said no, do the standard application, which is a much longer and more drawn-out process. And, okay, so we did, as Gwen Hurstein stated, we requested as part of our permit package application to the DEP, a letter of no contravene from the City of Shores, which they gave us. We submitted, and unfortunately waited up to 8 months for them to issue this permit.
Okay.
In the meantime, several board members, these people have been rocked financially, and we're doing the best we can. We scaled everything down to, under $270,000, including the installation of a new seawall.
Really?
In an attempt
Wow.
to help these people, because it's a tragedy to see them have to go hurricane after hurricane assessments. I won't, that's another conversation. They're doing a good job of, trying to get these new board members on board with, hey, how this process works. And they have really risen to the occasion. Unfortunately, they're in the middle of all this, which involves the city of Daytona Beach Shores and code enforcement. That being said, the permit has been issued. I personally have forwarded on our Connect Live account, our general contractor account, to environmental management, beaches and dunes, and coastal management, which is Jessica Fentress. That's our local, once the DEP issues their permit, again, which took up to 8 months, then we immediately, upon receipt of it, with approximately 10 days ago, made application to the county. I sent an email to Gwen this morning that we anticipate having those permits by the end of next week, at which time we will be submitting to the City of Shores to get our local permit number 5, needed to do all that work. Moving forward, if I can blurt it out, and then I'll be quiet for a minute. We, as these things began to arrive, we wanted something to do to help them. We pulled a demolition permit to demo the remainder of the pool deck concrete wall and the old stairs. There was a lot of debris from the initial collapse that was left there. They did a major cleanup after 2022. So I'm going to guess July of this last year, I don't have it in front of me, the City of Daytona Shores issued us a demolition permit, and then the County of Volusia issued us a use permit. We had on-site meetings with the county. I think it was Mr. Edmonds was at that time
He still is.
building, right. And we demoed as much, under that demolition permit, hauled away all of that debris. And now it sits in the state that you see it right now.
Okay.
So our request would be, obviously, if I may, that no fine be incurred daily. They've already had enough of financial hardship. So again, it's very sad to see what's going on out there up and down the beach. They're one of several projects we have. And in light of that, we would request that no fine be administered daily.
I understand, and I'm
Thank
not, blind to the financial hardship this would cause the condominium, because, you've got $270,000 for a seawall, and then I'm piling, every 4 days an extra $1,000 on
Yes, sir.
top. Unfortunately, as just like the last hearing, this is not the hearing where I can reduce or rescind fines. This is where I find that they're not compliant and fines begin to run. I am not, as you can tell, when Ms. Herstein's presentation, I noticed the 7-month gap for permit immediately. That is something that I take in consideration when taking fines away.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
I understand.
I can't promise you anything at the moment.
understand that as
but I
well.
certainly get where you're coming from, and I know that, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection could have moved a lot quicker on your behalf.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Ms. Herstein, do you have any questions?
I do not, Your Honor. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, yes, I do. Because it seems that all of the permits it sounds like they're imminent to be submitted to the city, and so hopefully they'll start soon. What is the projected start date, and what is the projected finish date?
May I?
Yeah, because I don't know.
Yes, sir. Volusia County, we anticipate B&D, which is beaches and dunes, and environmental management, which controls the turtle and sea turtle nesting. We anticipate those permits, which have been applied for, will be issued by the end of next week. At that point, I would like to give us through the beginning of the following week, just for the sake of I can't control that, neither can Mr. Van Arnhem. How about within 2 weeks, we're into the City of Shores Building Department, myself or Mr. Van Arnhem with our permit application. And in the meantime, if I can add to that, we're going to go ahead and have a conversation about, Gwen, what were the remaining items letters that you?
We can discuss it
I'll
afterwards.
discuss that with you.
They're-
Okay.
yeah, they're listed
So-
for you. I think
Right.
you're asking about the other violations for this case.
Right, I'll
other
talk to you
than
about,
the
yes, ma'am. So upon issuance of the City of Shores permit, which again, they've been pretty quick.
Right.
Within 3 weeks, we will have everything we need. In the meantime, we can begin mobilizing and placing equipment what's out on the north side of the building.
And how long do you think the construction process will take?
We're going to need at least 90 days to get the embedment process of the true line seawall panels, which is, again, we're connecting to, you'll see the partial old return concrete seawall. We're connecting new true line seawall panels from there, going up the Lawton approach and returning, closing the gap to the building. So to get that embedment, that's the longest process. We need 90 days for that. The entire project, weather permitting, is probably going to take in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
In the meantime, sir, we're trying to help them. We can be working on these other permit issues that are part of the violation. Painting things, repair to the seawall that's existing, that's unsightly, and we're working actively with the current board on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies, anything either of you want to say?
I thank you for that.
I just want to say that we really have appreciated Gwen working with us, and also Tim and both Alicia and Steve. Steve too, yes. We have had a whole turnover and a lot of corruption and we had kind of a coup that happened at our building. And so we've had a lot of things were.
I love HOAs. They're my favorite thing.
Yes, so when you have a management that's, in there for 20 years and not a normal working board, we have the DER, we will be involving probably the sheriff's office and other people, and we've had to hire attorneys to investigate stuff. The record of, that she sent, that your city sent in January, none of us had that or knew about it. Email address were taken, records were taken. So we have been playing catch up, and then Milton hit, and we still have 2 open claims with Ian and Nicole. And so it's been a hard sell to assess our owners again, because they were assessed for Ian and Nicole, and now we have $1 million worth of liens and a lawsuit from R&R, who just declared bankruptcy. And so it's been a bit of a mess, but we apologize if there was anything that Gwen or your city had to experience from our association and the management that was disrespectful, because I know the county experienced antagonism and some things from there. And so we are determined to have cooperative relationships, especially with the county, because we share that. We want to change all of Pirates Cove. We incorporated laws and conduct and levels of accountability, so that even when we're not in office, this doesn't ever happen again.
Great.
Yes, so we are determined. We are low on funds now, but we did an assessment, and over 80% of the owners paid in faith, even though nothing has changed, because we're doing daily, weekly communication, creating owner input and contributions, and we have great owners. So we are planning to, thank goodness we hired an attorney from Orlando to represent us for Milton, because we had Citizens Insurance, and they waited 2.5 months. We didn't hear from them, and they denied our deductible. They said our damage was only less than $200,000. So thankfully, we had an owner who knew of an attorney who fights insurance companies in Florida for owners, and they're representing us for Milton. So we're still unsure what's going to happen with Ian and Nicole, but for the city, you're almost the easy part, because it's very clear. You've done a great job of outlining exactly what is unsafe, what is we need to have done, and thank goodness we have Steve and Tim to help work for us. And we hope it will be even faster than 4 months. We don't know. We all, work together. But anything that we can do to cooperate, and any apologies for what's happened in the last years, it is unimaginable, inexplainable. It just constantly, we are like, what just happened? So we are cleaning up, starting over, and hopefully we're going to keep Alicia for a long time and establish good community relationships. So
Great. I don't need an apology, but this is what I want from you.
yes,
Okay, because you're going to come back here,
on April 3rd. Yes.
and you're going to ask me to relieve you of some of these fines.
Yes.
Please make my job easy by having a timeline,
Okay.
okay? So for instance, from January 24 to July 31st, 24, you were waiting for a Florida Department of Environmental Protection permit. I don't think that's your fault at the moment, okay? It may be, but I'm just using an example. Count up how many days you are waiting for that permit, so that I can take off 67 or 74 or whatever it is, and we're not here for hours while I'm figuring out the number of days using a calendar.
Yes.
So please, when you come back to make your presentation, make it easy on me to help you.
Thank you.
Okay?
That's all we needed. Yes, absolutely. That's an easy job.
All right, great.
Thank you so much, and we were a pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I hope you continue to smile what I'm about to do. All right, so I'm going to
No, I know, it's
find
coming.
you
She
not
already warned us.
not in compliance, order number 11, and order that you pay $92.43 in administrative fees and costs within 30 days. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, and you can stay or you can leave.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
It was a pleasure meeting you, even under these circumstances.
These days I'm going to make somebody stay.
Well, I don't mind. I was actually thinking I'd like to bring my son in here to witness this.
I did that as a county judge when I had college students that, open container or something like that. Their punishment was they had to stay for the whole session, and then I dismissed the case.
I like learning about these politics. They're very interesting.
Thank you.
Next time,
Thank
he's
you so
learning.
much. We will be back, but maybe on better terms.
All right, it's not like TV. I don't yell at people here.
Thank you, we appreciate everything.
You're welcome. All right, next one is property owner OC 3711 LLC, case number SCDEF 2023-50. Is there somebody here representing it? Sir, you are? And your name?
Ankit.
I didn't.
And he,
Ankit, A-N-K-E-E-T.
NK. Okay,
Your Honor, I was not provided an authorization to answer, but this gentleman probably has answers to some questions that you may want answered. So the city will end up calling him as a witness once we have provided the evidence that we need to get on the record.
okay. Sir, what's your relationship to the property?
Contractor.
You're the contractor, okay. Do you have an ownership interest in it?
No.
All right,
I was contacted yesterday evening by the owner, who said that he was not able to be at the hearing, but he was sending somebody. But I personally haven't seen the authorization.
okay. This building's owned by one person?
It's a company. It's OC 3711 LLC.
Right.
But the paperwork mainly is sent to one person, and I've only ever spoken with one person regarding anything under that company name, and that's Mr. Pinchas Maman.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents included in this PowerPoint file, whether by the city for this case, be accepted as evidence, most of which have been provided to the special magistrate, and most of which have been provided to the respondent through typical notices. Though, like I said, this gentleman was not present before the hearings began, so I was not able to even offer him the packet that he could have looked through.
Okay.
But I did speak with Mr. Maman yesterday, and he does understand what the city intends to do today.
Okay, without an authorization to represent or an ownership interest in the property, I'm not going to allow him to object to the introduction of evidence, and if he's the city's witness, he certainly can't do that. So, hearing no objection, the packet is accepted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I did want to clarify that I have been told it has been emailed to me this morning, but I wasn't in a position to open my emails. I come to the meeting, I try to help answer any questions beforehand. So I didn't see it. That's why I asked for it yesterday.
I'm very familiar with
Thank
that
you.
situation.
Thank you. Okay, Your Honor. This is again a first compliance hearing for the third of 3 compliance dates. At the January 2024 initial hearing, the property owner was given 3 compliance dates for rectification of 5 violations related to storm damage from late 2022 Hurricanes Ian and Nicole. After the first and second compliance dates, first compliance hearings were held and the property was found to have remained in violation. Orders imposing fine and lien have been recorded for, to establish that that fees and fines have been imposed already. This being done today is an effort to make sure that no communication is lost regarding the fact that the property is still in violation. So this is this third compliance hearing, even though we already have fees running under an order imposing fine and lien, this is being done in an attempt to fully establish that communication has been perfected, if you will.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, by the January 20th, 2025 full compliance date, all of the 5 violations were to have been fully rectified, again, with final approval from an engineer, signed and sealed engineer's report, and also approved final inspections. I re-inspected on January 23rd of this year, and that re-inspection showed it had not been, compliance had not been achieved. And you already know about this gentleman here for code, And so I will be calling him, but I'd first like to show you pictures of the violations remaining and offer a recommendation. And then I will call this gentleman to the stand, if I might.
Okay. Yeah, this is the one where the owner represented that everything had been fixed, and it had not been.
The,
The 17-year-old employee that said everything was good.
my recollection was that a representative of the construction company that had been contacted to put up temporary shoring had verbally verified that that temporary shoring had been placed when it had not been. That's
Okay.
my recollection.
All right, that makes a little more sense. I was wondering how they could think they had constructed a seawall and had not, so, okay.
One of the earlier compliance dates regarded simply shoring up the open area of the seawall to prevent trespassers and additional damage.
Okay.
And that was said to have been done, but was not. Okay, violation A, the seawall has failed and is missing in places. You can see there's not much difference, if any, between the picture from last year and the pictures taken January 23rd of this year. Violation A, again, same violation, but different areas of the seawall. The left side of the page is pictures of the seawall cap. And while the pictures on the left are not exactly the same spot, there are many places that that cap is failing and cracked. And on the pictures on the right, top and bottom, represent the opening, which had been closed off partially or temporarily, but then another hurricane came through and removed that temporary closing that had happened. Violations A, D, and E are all similar, and so the pictures that I just showed you also represent violation D and violation E. The seawall does not appear to be structurally sound and sections are missing. Violation E, the seawall is not in good repair, is missing in places and not protecting property elements. This is the different views of the same channel of washed out material. This is along the north property line, standing at the seawall level for the top picture, looking up. And then the bottom picture is standing midway or partway through the property, along the edge of the property looking down. And you can see that yellow box is around that opening, which is best shown on the pictures on the right. 7, 8 foot opening. And you can see how it's washing out additional parts of what was the pool deck. Violation B, the pool deck has collapsed at northeast corner. That's an example above, the above picture of what it looked like in 2024. And fill dirt was provided to the property. Even though the seawall hadn't been repaired, I think the property owner was told that putting fill dirt in would help stabilize the rest of the property, and unfortunately that's been compromised by the fact that that temporary shoring did not hold. So you can see again the channel that's been created along the north property line where it's continuing to wash out. Paint on seawall is deteriorated and peeling. Obviously that would be a last step and may not be required depending on the materials that are used. We do have a recommendation, a requested order, and that is for an order number 11, order imposing fine and lien, to include administrative fees in the amount of $85.53, which you can see in affidavit form 4D35. All previous administrative fees have been paid for this case.
Okay.
And knowing that you may have some questions about what the property is, how the property is going to move forward, I also have those same questions. So I would like to call the owner or one of the owners of Up to Code? Above Code. Above Code Construction, who has been invited here at the property owner's request, is my understanding.
All right, come on up, sir. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Sir, would you state your name, and I'll write it down this time. I apologize.
Ankit Rama.
Ankit.
That's A-N-K-E-E-T.
Mm-hmm.
Last name Rama, R-A-M-A.
Thank you. And you're one of the owners of,
Yes, Above Code Marine Construction and Design.
mhm. And were you contacted by Mr. Maman?
Yes.
And what did Mr. Maman ask you to do?
We've been recently contracted to do the work on the seawall. Had some engineering completed on it by CRA engineers, and we gave him a proposal for that, and he just recently approved us to move forward.
So he signed your proposal?
Correct.
Okay. And can you tell me, please, when were you first contacted by Mr. Maman?
I believe in August, and then again within the past 2 weeks, I believe.
And when were you given the thumbs up to move forward?
2 days ago. Or we got a move forward last Friday, and then he signed 2 days ago.
Okay, so, and what happened between August 2024 and the past 2 weeks? What was going on then?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so you had maybe,
We had went and inspected the site and given him a proposal, and then we weren't sure how he wanted to proceed at that point. I think he was waiting on funding.
I understand. And are you familiar with the FDEP approval process?
Yes. I believe they had an emergency order that expired, and there were 2 renewals, I believe, that completed. The FDEP, I think the emergency order application date ended on February 16th of this year, and just recently, as of last night, we found out it got extended for another 60 days. So I believe CRA engineers will be resubmitting, and then we should have that within a few weeks. They already have all paperwork and everything already completed.
And is your scope of work going to cover all of the violations that I just showed, the A through H?
As of right now, we're contracted to, so yeah, as of right now, we're contracted to do just a brand new seawall and concrete cap. It'll be placed in front of the existing wall.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
You're gonna, so here's the first wall.
Mhm.
You're gonna put the second wall in front?
Right in front of it, correct.
Does he own the land?
How it works with DEP is you're allowed to build within 18 inches in front of your existing wall.
Okay.
Would you please tell me, from the time that you are able to begin, you have materials on site, et cetera, how long do you expect to be working at the site until completion, which would include final engineering, please?
As of right now, as soon as we get the DEP permit and submit to the city and county, that's gonna run concurrent with us ordering seawall panels, which should take about 6 to 8 weeks. So we're hoping within the 6 to 8 weeks, we have all the permits in place. And then as soon as the panels come in, we'll begin installing, and then should be complete with all construction within 90 days.
From beginning
From-
construction?
Yes, from
Okay.
beginning of construction.
Thank you. And would you consider taking that list back to Mr. Maman and identifying the things on that list that you're not going to be taking care of for him,
Yes.
so that he might want you to give another proposal? That's the end of my questions.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to find that they are not in compliance, issue an order number 11, $85.53, administrative fees within 30 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's the end of the agenda. Going back to the front. Yes. Okay, the next code enforcement hearing will be Thursday, March 20th at 9 a.m. then April 17th at 9 a.m., and May 15th at 9 a.m. And with that, we are done. Gwen, I have something that I'd like you to do, if you don't mind. We're running into all these weather events. Is there any way you can